So we picked up this old Chevy tailgate the other day off of Facebook Marketplace, and I thought it would make for a cool bench, tailgate bench. Now, I've looked at some other tailgate benches, and I've noticed they're all kind of built somewhat similar. I'm going to do mine hopefully just a little bit different, where the idea for me is that this tailgate will just slide in to a bench frame. We won't actually be drilling or screwing or doing anything to the tailgate itself, so that if we want to, pull this tailgate out and put a different one in, my wife really would prefer a Ford, which we've got a 71 Chevy tailgate here. But anyhow, the idea is that we're not going to put any additional holes or anything in the tailgate. That it'll just sit in place. But the way we build the frame, it's going to hold this in place without actually drilling into the tailgate. So the first thing I did was measure the overall length of the tailgate, and that comes in at 67 inches. And then the height is 22 inches, okay? So now what I'm going to do is go to the computer, start laying some things out. Of course, the one thing is the tailgate itself will have a 10-degree pitch. It's what we usually do on the back side of benches. 10 degrees is good. 15 degrees just feels like it's a little bit too far back. So anyhow, that's kind of what our plan is. I like the patina of this. If I did anything to this at all, I would probably just do a clear coat. I was told this is the original paint on this tailgate, so the customer where we got this from did not paint it or anything. All right, so what we'll do is we'll go to the computer. I'll do some drawings, get things figured out how I think this might go. One other dimension that I forgot to mention is the thickness. We'll have to get the thickness of the tailgate too. But the length is 67, the height is 22. We'll get the thickness, and we'll go to the computer and lay out a frame that I think, we're going to have to kind of make it up as we go along. But I have a general idea of how we're going to make this work. But until I actually get to building, it'd be tough to really know for sure. Okay, so let me do some sketching on the computer, and then we'll start building our frame. I just thought I would share a little bit of the design process with you. When I do my preliminary layouts, I'll often come into CorelDRAW. Now I happen to be using CorelDRAW X6, but really any version of CorelDRAW can get you going. It's a pretty easy program to learn. Lots of video demonstrations and things like that online. And then I'll also take most of my models that I'm doing here in CorelDRAW, and I'll do them in 3D in SketchUp, just to make sure all the components are going to work and exactly like I hope to. Now in this case, I'm not going to really bother with a SketchUp model because of its simplicity, and also because this is just a one-off thing. This is not something I with the intention of mass producing, things like that. So at any rate, that's kind of my my logic there. So let's just talk a little bit about what we're going to build. First of all, what we're going to build is really simple, which, obviously simple is good. Should go together real quick for us. And so what we have here is just kind of just a basic mock-up. Now remember, I wanted something I could just set the tailgate into. I didn't want to have to screw, I didn't want to have to drill into it, anything like that. So this could be, this is, the purpose of this video is really more about just sharing an idea, because it has a lot of different applications. So there's all kinds of things out there that would make for a good, interesting back rest to a bench that we might want to use, but we might not want to cut into or tear up in any way. And so, for example, certainly tailgate would be one thing that obviously you could use. but also what about like a door, like a really pretty antique door, something along those lines that you don't want to tear up the door necessarily. You could just set it right into place. But there's other things too. You know, you just look all over. There's all kinds of different things that might make for a good back to a bench, but we don't want to destroy in any way. So, so if you look at my side view here, you'll see that that big block right there is basically what I'm referring to as my bench. So it's 22 inches high. I know it has a 10-degree background, and the overall width of the bench with all the pieces and parts is actually 4 inches. Now, that's just the way I drew it up. And the angle of this back is ultimately going to be determined by this post right here. Now, I am going to go back outside, and because I measured, there's some brackets up at the top of this tailgate, and I included those brackets in this 4-inch dimension. But I do know that the tailgate itself is not actually 4 inches thick. So I'm going to measure, because now I can see where, so the tailgate's going to hit here, and it's going to hit here. So I'm going to measure approximately right dead center in the middle of the tailgate, how wide that is, and then I'll bump this in accordingly. Okay, so I'll just make a small adjustment there. And then, so you can see that my arm is going to die into the tailgate. If we look at the front, you'll kind of see how that, so this is the edge of the tailgate, our arm is going to die right into it. So as we're looking at the front of it, we're not going to see a lot of the framework of the bench itself. Now from the side view, we'll definitely see the framework, but we just don't see it from the very front of the bench, and that's what I preferred. Now if you look at a lot of the images of tailgate benches, you'll see a big thick frame usually on both sides of the tailgate that the tailgate's going to fit into, and I didn't want to see that. I just basically want to see the tailgate by itself, more or less. Okay, so that was just my personal preference. Now looking at the side view, it's not particularly aesthetically pleasing. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But you know, when we're designing something, we want something that's going to look nice. This looks a little strange, and because it is a little strange, but it has a very specific purpose. Okay, so this little block right here, I've got where the tailgate is going to be slid into. That's going to be like a stop block. Because I wanted, if you look back at my front view, I wanted a little bit of space between the seat itself and the bottom of the tailgate. I've got it set to 2 inches right now. When I get out there and really take a look at it, I might go, I think 2 inches is going to be fine, but I might even go a little bit wider. I just have to see what it actually looks like, you know. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut up a few parts and just kind of get this mocked up and just see, you know, ultimately see what it looks like. It's only a couple of 2x4, so it's, you know, I'm going to guesstimate we're going to use about 5 or 6 2x4s, so it's not going to be a huge deal just to mock it up. I'm not going to worry about the seat itself. I just want to get the bench mocked up. So we've got to cut us 4 26-inch legs, and then this piece right here, this 24 3/8, we've got to cut that. We're going to have this front piece here, and then we're going to cut 2 of these big arms there, and then we're going to have another 67-inch piece. So this, you see that dimension right there? That's this bar. That's going to connect our 2 legs, right? And then up here, it's going to be the same 67 inches. Okay. So, so at any rate, I'm going to go cut up a few boards here and just kind of mock this up as we go here, and just to see, get a feel for what this will actually look like. So let me go ahead and cut up some boards, and I'll come back and we'll show you how to build these leg assemblies that we need to build. We'll do a quick little recap of the parts that I have already cut. Now we are going to need a couple more parts, but this will get us most of the way, I think. So what we've got is we've got 6 2x4s that we cut to 26 inches, And then we have two 2x6s that we cut to 22 inches. And I don't know if you can really tell, but we've got a 10-degree bevel on these. And then we have two 2x4s that are 67 inches. And then we have two 2x4s that are 34 3/8. So we're going to go ahead and lay out our leg assemblies. So our legs are going to be kind of like this. So we're going to have two legs here. We're going to have one long leg. So we're going to basically measure up 16.5 inches, and that's where this board is going to connect all three of these. Okay, I'll have to go refer to the plans as far as how far all these boards are. This board is to the front edge of that one. This board, the long one, is to the front end. I don't know exactly where that one's to be placed, so I'll need that dimension. But I'll go ahead and make those leg assemblies. We'll go ahead and these will eventually be our arms. Now there is some more milling to do on these, but I'm just going to mock this up just to see if my idea looks good. That's what my concern is. Does it look good? Okay, so let me go ahead and put together one of these leg assemblies, and I'll show it to you, and we'll talk about how we put it together and all the dimensions and stuff. Now there will be plans available if this turns out. Okay, so if this turns out, I'll have plans available. Again, all of our plans are $5, and the information on how to get the plans will be in the listing description. But I'm pretty sure if I give you all the details, you probably won't even need plans. This is a pretty simple build, unless I forget a dimension here or there. But let me get the leg assembly put together, and then I will talk some more about it. Okay, well, that's more or less the leg assembly. Now, keep in mind, we do have to do, this will be the left, we have to do a right-handed version, so we got to do the mirror of this. So from the front here to where this is placed, 18.5. So this one and this one are flush with the ends here. I have this arm just kind of on here. Like I said, there's more work to be done to the arm. We won't have it all squared off like that and the finished product, but I just have it tacked on there. This is an inch, not from here to here, but from here to here. So I just ballparked it, and you know, you could just draw a 1 inch mark and then draw it down, but it's a 1 inch overhang. Okay, so we'll see if that works. That's what the plans call for. Now I did add this little piece of blocking because I felt it needed it, and that will help us, because a lot of pressure is going to be on this, because that bench is going to be, you know, we're going to be leaning back on this one. So I decided to put a little piece. So I just measured up 4 inches and put a block. This worked out to be 5 5/8. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing, but a right-handed version. So I lined up my boards here, and I came from the bottom, 16.5, take my carpenter square and mark all of my boards, and I'll space them out just a little bit like that. Take my horizontal board, and I'll go ahead and put in one, flush it up on the outside, put in one screw, grab my carpenter square, square it off, put in my second, then I'll come to the back, and this board goes to the bottom of that 16.5 inch line. Screw, square it off, another screw, and then from the front edge back, 18.5 to the back edge of this. Okay, so from the front to that back edge is 18.5. Put in a screw, square it off, put in the second screw. Okay, and then we'll put in our other arm piece across these two boards with that 1 inch overhang. We'll measure up 4 inches. We'll measure what that distance is, should be 5 5/8. Put in our little block there. Okay, then we'll have our right hand version of our leg assembly. So there we be. We've got our right hand assembly, and then we have our left hand assembly. And now we're going to take our 267s and go right across the front of both of these. So here and here. Now we might ultimately come in here and put in a cross support here as well, or on the back side, something like that. But I'm going to start with those two for now. but we are probably definitely going to add one on the back side to hold these legs together as well. Okay, so let me go ahead and connect our two legs together and see where we're at structurally wise, if we need another 67-inch piece, which I think we're gonna. But we'll try it out here and see what we think. You can see nothing fancy here. We have them laying on this uneven ground on their backs. We're just gonna line this one up, square it up with our carpenter square, pop in a couple 3.5-inch screws. Mind you, all the assembly up to this point has been with 3.5-inch screws. Always use 3.5-inch screws if we can. They're bigger, thicker, stronger. And then once we have that in place, then we'll come over here and we'll do the same thing. We'll just drag that leg out and square it all up and pop a couple screws in. Then we'll stand it up on end, and then we'll put the back one in place. Okay? Pretty straightforward stuff. Let me go ahead and get those together, and then we'll move on. Let me go ahead and show you what I did here. So here, I did accidentally use 3.5-inch screws. And I shouldn't have, but I'm gonna go ahead and say do it. And I'm just gonna take my grinder and we'll just nip those off because they did poke through. But here, we can use 3.5s because we can screw into this. So we'll put 2.5-inch here, 3.5-inch there. In my case, I have 3.5s, so I'm gonna leave them. Just take my angle grinder and nip those off on the back side there. Okay, so we'll do the exact same thing to the other side. We'll square it up and we'll put in 4 screws on the other side the same way. Well, we're almost ready to test fit our tailgate. I surely hope this works because I think we kind of reached our first hurdle. The first hurdle was, is this going to be aesthetically pleasing design? And I think it is. Now we've got some work to do on our arms to make those a little bit better. We are going to do something here on the end, which will be kind of fun for some storage and also a cup holder for the bench. So we've got some other things to add to it. But before we do that, now there are also going to be some more of these cross supports here for the seat. We'll use 2 more of those for the seat, and then of course our seat itself. But what I want to do is we've got to create some blocks here for the tailgate to rest on, to sit at the level above the seat that we want, and also so the tailgate won't come back. Because again, we're just setting it in place. Okay, so we're going to cut 2 pieces that are 6 3/8 first. Then we're going to measure how much space we have left over. 2 2x4, 6 3/8. Tailgate's going to sit on top of those, and then we're going to measure the space that's left. And I think we'll use 8 3/8 or something like that. But we'll get a dimension exactly what we want to use there too. So let me go add those pieces, and then we're going to do our first test fit of our tailgate here. Moment of truth time. So there is my 6 3/8 block. So I put in 2 screws here, and then I came around and put 2 screws in on the front side here as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and test fit our tailgate. It's going to sit on these blocks, and then we're going to have another piece come up a little bit up of this so that tailgate can't be pushed back. Okay, so that's the idea anyhow. So let's fit the tailgate, see if it'll work at all, and we'll kind of go from there. Well, there you have it. We did succeed. Now you really can't tell until the seat is in place, but that is considerably higher than where the seat board's going to be, which is exactly what we wanted. And you can kind of see now how that sits on that blocker right there, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and push this all the way forward, and we're going to build a little blocker there. I'm going to show you how we're going to do that, but you can see the angle of our tailgate, and then you can just kind of see how that hits back here. So I did go ahead and put a 67-inch there at the seat level and up here as well. We could have just put that as a cap, as another option. And I may come back and actually add another board as a cap. I don't know, might not. So what we do need to do is we need to put in a couple more seat boards, or cross boards this way, and then we're going to make our seat boards using 2x6s and one 2x4. Dolly up our arms a little bit, and we're going to have ourselves a nice little bench. Now what I will do probably is go ahead right here and add a little block of wood across the face of these two, and that will keep our tailgate from moving left to right. It won't be able to. It will only be able to come up. So you'll see when I make my little blocks that go in here to pin this all the way forward, you'll see what I'm going to do there. And then we'll add a little block of wood. Doesn't have to be anything. Could be just a little piece of fence picket is probably what I'm going to use. Doesn't really have to be much of anything, just something to hold it in place. And that's really it. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. This is kind of an early release video, but I will have a full video as well to show you the finished product. So there you go. There's the test fit. It fits pretty good. Looks pretty sharp too. And that's what I'm super excited about. So now what's the next steps? Well, the next step we're going to do is we're going to build a little block of wood right here and screw it in place to kind of pin this so it can't slide back on us. And then we're going to put a little board on the end here so that the tailgate can't go left to right. It can only just slide in perfectly. What else? We got to put two more seat board supports in place here before we actually lay our seat boards down. So next thing I'm going to do is build these little blocks, and we're going to go from there. I decided to go ahead and cut the seat boards quick just so you could kind of see what it looked like as a finished bench, and it looks pretty sharp. You can see we got that nice gap between the bottom of our tailgate and our seat. Looking pretty good. I'll show you those little support blocks we put in there to pin that tailgate in there, but it'll still lift out nice and easily. So we'll finish it up and show you a few more details, but I just wanted to kind of show you what that looked like real quick.